What's up, everybody, and welcome inside to League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you guys today, and it's time to start getting excited because Worlds is so close that I can smell it. I can taste it, Mark, which means it's time for the annual top 20 players countdown coming in to the event. And there's some familiar faces and a whole lot of new blood that are going to be on this list. When the likes of Bjergsen and Faker are not at the event, there's some openings.
Yeah, it's crazy. For the first time since 2014, we'll not have SKT and Faker, of course, at this event. Faker, a mainstay at the top of these type of lists of the top 20 players heading to the World Championship. He won't be there. Vacancy at the top. I'm sure lots of you can guess who might be filling it this year, but you're going to have to wait and find out.
And I just want to say, if Faker was even at this event, he's not in the top 5.
It's crazy.
List. He would not be in the top 5. He'd be pushing top 10. Before we get into the countdown, let's just look at a couple of guys who were oh so close to making the list, but just fell outside. I'm talking about Toussaint for the Afrika Freaks and the Shy for Invictus Gaming. The Shy was not as good as he was in spring, coming into summer with the injury, and he was still splitting a lot of time with Duke. He's had moments where he looks like spring split Shy, but also he's inted a little bit. So he's just on the outside, and Toussaint is fantastic on Afrika, but top 20, there's a lot of good players. So again, these guys hover around that 21 to 22 spot.
Yeah, simply that was the reason why someone like Toussaint doesn't make it into this top 20. A fantastic player, someone who is great at these playmaking engages and things like that from the support role. But just, hey, top 20 players in the world, there's a lot of good guys here. Just didn't make the cut.
Just didn't make the cut. But let's get into the guys who did make the cut, starting with number 20, where you have your one and only North American resident who's going to be making this list. Of course, it is the Summer Split MVP. Talking about Doublelift, no Bjergsen at Worlds. So Doublelift is the man who represents North America on this list in 2018. Maybe you could even go a couple spots higher than 20, but I think what this guy did in 2018, he definitely deserves to be on this list.
As Doublelift stands on that mountain, looking down at the smoldering flames of Team Solo Mid, he decides, I'm going to Korea and I'm going to Worlds, and things are looking pretty good for me. Heading to Worlds this year, Doublelift, of course, has a lot to answer for from previous years of how he's performed at Worlds. But heading into this one, I think a lot of people can feel pretty confident about what type of performance that you should be seeing from Doublelift, given not only the level of play and form that he has been in recently with the likes of his teammates on Team Liquid, but also given where the meta is going to be compared to last year, as far as his conflicting views about scaling champions at that point in time with the glorious Ardent Censer that we all love and know about. Oof. But anyways, very different this time, and I think this year, Doublelift and Team Liquid are poised to make a good bit of noise here at Worlds.
And I know the memes are all about him performing internationally at Worlds, not using his flash, all the stuff like that, but just look back at MSI this year where he performed super well, was far and away the best performing member on that Liquid squad, and carried them to that tiebreaker against Fnatic, which they inevitably lost, but he looked pretty fantastic in that event, especially considering the top class AD carry competition that he was against. So a lot of hype around him heading into Worlds, which means disappointment will be painful, but he's already shown in 2018 he can compete with the very best.
Hey, and it's 200 IQ right here. 2017, Doublelift saves his flash. 2018, time to cash in. You've got 2 flashes for this Worlds, buddy.
Yeah, now it's like Earth mode, right? He's got a
exactly.
30-second cooldown on every single
Just like
flash.
Zoe, it rolls over.
Oh, gross. Don't say her name on the show. We don't talk about Zoe. Let's move on to number 19, where we've got our first member of the LMS squad. And the only LMS representatives are, believe it or not, from Flash Wolves, because sorry to the other LMS teams. But it is Maple, the mid laner for them, who you saw at MSI. He was one of the best performing mid laners at that event. I know the main knock on Flash Wolves is they're not in a very competitive region. They completely dumpster it pretty much every year. And spoilers, they did it again in 2018 summer. 3-0 in the finals against Mad Team. But Maple, far and away the best mid in that region.
For the last 2 or so years, when you've been thinking about the elite level of mid laners that make their annual trips to Worlds to showcase what they have, you think of the likes of Faker, Bjergsen, and Maple. Those have been the 3 that their teams have always found a way to make it to the World Championships. No Faker this year, no Bjergsen, but yes, We are getting Maple, and yes, the Flash Wolves are certainly a team that you should be keeping your eye on. Myself included, a lot of people were doubting them heading towards the midseason invitational this year, thinking that, you know what, the LMS is really weakened as a region as a whole. There's no way that that top team is still going to be able to show that strength on the international stage. Well, guess what? We were completely wrong. The Flash Wolves are still the Korean killers we know them to be and are able to be in their play. And I think right now the key for them there, for sure, is Maple in that mid lane. If he's able to get onto some of these proactive champions and impact the map, oh boy, Flash Wolves will be looking pretty good.
Yeah, and as a Pool 1 seed in any other Korean team, you're scared if you get them into your group because they're almost guaranteed to get a win against any squad from the LCK, and they'll definitely be looking to improve on 2017 Worlds, where all Flash Wolves did was play spoilers to TSM to ensure that they didn't get out of groups. Let's roll on to number 18, where we have our first member from the LCK champs in 2018 summer, KT Rolster, Deft. It's been a couple of years since we've seen him at Worlds, back when he was on EDG, performing pretty well at Worlds. He has had some disappointment when it comes to those international events. His play style has changed a bit over the last couple of years. It used to be just get through the laning phase and I'll pop off on these team fights. But now he's one of the best laners in the LCK. A lot of that probably due with laning with Mata in there, but he's had some mispositioning in these late game team fights and been dominating the early game. But I mean, this guy is still a world-class AD carry.
Oh, absolutely a world-class AD carry. And if you're talking about 1v1 mechanical skill level here, this might be the top level AD carry heading to this event. If there wasn't someone already named Uzi at this event, spoiler alerts, Deft would certainly be that guy. But when you're talking about an AD carry who you want to be able to carry you in these intense team fights toward the later games, to be dishing out that damage on a hyperscaling carry, Deft is one of the top options that you could ever pick. He really has improved, I think, this year. He's been showing it. And hey, this has got to be the highest ranking Masters level player on a World's ranking list.
Yeah, you're only in Masters and you're in the top 18 for players heading into the World Championship. And some people, jokes aside, might think that's a little too low a ranking for Deft. This is a guy who usually you'd expect to be in the top 10 or so in this category. But really, he's been kind of an afterthought. I don't want to say that because it's a little bit disrespectful to him, but so many other guys have stepped up on that KT Rolster lineup that it's kind of been Deft taking a back seat. Sure, he pops off on the Kai'Sa, like you saw in that clip a few times against Griffin, but there's been so many guys in KT that have stepped up throughout the split that he's been a bit of an afterthought, to say the least.
Hey, this number would be a lot higher if things like Mordekaiser and those bruisers were still the predominant thing there.
No.
Not happening
No
anymore.
Mordekaiser.
We're back to these traditional Varus and Ashe snooze comps right here, ready for Worlds. And hey, you know who's going to make those snooze comps pretty exciting? Deft.
Yeah, you're going to see Kai'Sa permabanned the entire event, I would imagine. But coming up after the break, the countdown is going to roll on. We got some more Flash Wolves hype, who again, looking to bounce back from 2017, and Sword Art finally got an MVP in the LMS. Welcome back, everybody, here to League on Lock. Eric and Mark with you guys today, and we are counting down the top 20 players heading into the World Championship here in 2018. Countdown rolls on. We're hitting number 17, where we have one of NA's greatest players. I said Doublelift was the only NA player on this list, but how can we forget world champion CoreJJ and Dignitas, all-time great. Now the support of Gen G.
You know that actually sometimes here, currently, still to this day, in the LCK, CoreJJ will play with his Dignitas branded mousepad. It's one of my favorite things about him.
Dig does it best, man.
NA to the core, keeping us proud here. It's fantastic, but in all seriousness, the man who is trained by Kiwi Kid here,
Trained,
yeah,
yes.
Of course. CoreJJ has really emerged as a top-level support here in the LCK. Once again, being that part of that half here of Ruler and CoreJJ in the bot lane for Gen G that has won them a world championship before, that has head to the Asian Games and for the most part been a dominant bot lane.
Not at the Asian Games.
Except against Uzi and Ming heading into there. But when you're looking at the actual performances from Rule and Core JJ from this year, it really has been for the most part, especially on these traditional ADC matchups as they've been rolling into the bot lane recently, a lot better performances from the two of them. I think they certainly have to be a premier duo heading into this event.
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing about Core JJ, or two things, is that him and Ruler rarely die in the 2v2, if you're excluding, again, the Asian games, because we like to pretend that that didn't happen. You saw how low his first blood victim rate was, under 10% in the regular season. And also, he's able to play basically any style of support. His engages on something like an Alistar or a Rakan are fantastic, and we've seen in the past, as well as at times this year, something like the Tahm Kench or even the mages when they were in the meta. He still thrives on those champions. So it doesn't really matter what the support meta is, this guy can play anything.
I'll say it heading into this Worlds, he has the most disgusting Tahm Kench that I am scared for seeing. That catfish, I don't want to see him on the Rift whatsoever.
Everyone's Tahm Kench is disgusting because he's a disgusting and toxic champion to play against.
You keep that tongue inside your mouth.
Bench the Kench. That's what I want to see at Worlds. So let's go on to Sweet 16, where we've got one of Core JJ's pals and teammates on Gen G. We're talking about Cuvee in the top lane, who had a underwhelming regular season, to say the least. And if it was based purely on that, he would not be on this list. But you got to account for what he can do, what he usually does at Worlds, and what he did in the regional finals during their gauntlet run, because he was an absolute beast in the gauntlet.
Yeah, Cuvee showed up into the gauntlet and said, oh boy, I'm the final raid boss that you got to go through at Gen G, and I am a monster here. He really did finally show up here in the top lane into this regional finals. We've been waiting for it ever since he's gotten himself this fancy Samsung NAR World Championship skin. Yeah, it looks great, buddy, but your performance was nowhere near the level of a World Championship level player, and hey, finally showed up here in this regional qualifiers. Finally working out. You can't do it. Can't do it. Can't do it to me. This is that NAR that we've been talking about, getting it done, and says, hey, it ain't over. I'm getting more kills in this one against Griffin. Was really a pop-off level performance this past month that he's had heading into this Worlds tournament. I think he certainly has to be one of the top laners that you're looking out for.
Yeah, and again, I mean, there's some staple picks. I like seeing him more on those carry champions, even though, I mean, Anar is something he can take the game over with. Obviously, we're accustomed to seeing his Kennen in that top lane, but whenever Worlds comes around, you know Cuvee plays at another level entirely. Another level entirely is exactly what Sword Art plays in the LMS, and he finally got the recognition he deserves. He won the MVP award for the 2018 Summer Split. This guy, much like his teammate Maple, is a mainstay on these kind of lists, and he's almost always the player to watch on Flash Wolves at international events.
Yeah, when you're talking about supports, everyone's like, all right, Snooze Fest, Janna mains, whatever, I don't care. This is the exciting level of support that you want to be watching. Sword Art, oh my word, does this guy ever express skill and just a way of thinking here on these support champions that you just do not see from your average solo queue support player. This is what you're talking about when you're talking about a professional level here in League of Legends. Sword Art brings it, and he finally, of course, this year with these great stats that he's had, has been able to find a way to earn himself that MVP trophy.
Almost a 40% first blood rate. This guy is all over the map. They play around bot lane. They can play around whatever lane he's heading towards to get that early game rolling for them. And that's pretty much all the Flash Wolves need in the LMS is an early game lead, and that game is done. Obviously, it won't quite be the same on an international level, but we've already seen in 2018 that Flash Wolves can compete with the very best. And one of the reasons why is because their support is world-class and has been for a couple of years now. So Sword Art comes in at number 15. Let's roll on to number 14, where we've got the first member of RNG. The year is 2018, and the year is the year of RNG. We're talking Xiao Hu in the mid lane, who maybe 14 is a little bit low to what we're accustomed to seeing from him, but I think mid lane is the most stacked role at this event.
This ranking here for Xiaohu has to come as a disappointment for RNG fans and for himself here. But of course, the only way that this happens, that he gets slotted here at 14, is basically because of two reasons. Because RNG has had a year where it's mostly been about Uzi. It's all been the Uzi carry show, and if it hasn't been the Uzi carry show, it's been MLXG just going nutty and popping off in the jungle. That's usually the way it's been happening. It hasn't really had to be the Xiaohu show, so we haven't seen too much from him that would lead you to want to put him even higher. And then, of course, given the absolute strength of mid laners that we still have to go through here at this event, that's why he finds himself here. But don't sleep on Xiaohu. He certainly has the mechanical skill and that hunger here for these kills, that if he wants to pop off and you give him that slight window of opening, he'll take it.
Yeah, and he's a guy who, because they're so focused around Uzi, he's more playing a lot of supportive champions like the Galio in that mid lane. He's even played some Lulu this year, and really he's fine with that role. He excels in that role. We know he can be a carry threat as well. His rise against IG was absolutely disgusting and completely turned around a few of those team fights when Uzi went down. But this guy has shown he can be a premier carry. He's a former MVP of the LPL, and again, has shown that he can compete with the best of the best when it comes to the mid lane, and that's why he's coming in at number 14. Not quite into the top 10, but still a admirable and respectable spot.
Yeah, and as you said, he has been playing more supportive champions like the Lulu, and hey, of course, he has been playing that Galio. Only 1 year too late, but hey, better late than never.
Yeah, make sure you pick that away from Faker. Oh, it's too late. It's too soon at the same time. Coming up after the break, our countdown rolls forward. Who is the best jungler to come to Worlds out of the LPL? Hello, friends, and welcome back to League Unlocked. Eric and Mark with you guys today. The countdown rolls on for the top 20 players at the 2018 World Championship. We've hit the unlucky number 13, which is our second member of the LCK champs from KT Rolster. It's the 17-year-old phenom. 17! The man was born in 2001, Mark. I have to mention it every time because it's insane.
It's disgusting.
2001.
It's disgusting.
Yucal out in the mid lane, who is said, he looks up to guys like Faker, as I'm sure every mid laner who's born in the 2000s does in the LCK. But he just came into the starting lineup when Pawn was injured and out for personal reasons and completely stole that spot.
Oh, absolutely stole that spot and took it and ran with it completely till it's only his. And if you're thinking about, well, who are they going to be taking to Worlds as far as their 6-man roster, you have to be thinking, well, there's no way that they're not taking Rush here because Yucal is just such an upgrade over Pawn right now that there's no reason to take Pawn. Because Yucal has truly shown that not only is he a 17-year-old, well, he's a 17-year-old that can absolutely change the landscape of the games going on in the LCK, and he's proven it many times already with his performances on KT Rolster and some incredible games on the likes of Galio, hitting 5-man taunts.
Yeah, that was
just absolutely filthy from him. I think that he is truly an emerging star here, and this is going to be fantastic to watch him play at the world stage.
And I mean, internationally, KT did already go 4-0 at Rift Rivals. They've said themselves, we know we lost to the LPL, but it wasn't really our fault. We weren't really there. We couldn't get more wins for the squad, so they don't really count it to themselves, which means they want to win at Worlds. And you saw Yucal's prowess in the laning phase throughout the majority of 2018 summer. He had some epic 1v1s between the young guns in that LCK final against Griffin and Chovy. And I mean, he's gone toe-to-toe with any time you're being groomed in the LCK, which is the cream of the crop when it comes to mid laners, and you're actually putting up not only just a solid showing, but dumpstering some of these guys in and outside of lane. Shoutouts to him for having a fantastic split, and KT having faith in this young gun.
Yep, it's certainly going to be impressive, and Yucal is carrying the flag for all those 17-year-olds. He says, hey, Chovy, you might not be here, but I'm going to do our best, prove that we're worthy of this spot.
And he's definitely worthy of number 13 on our spot. Let's roll on to number 12 on the countdown, where we've got another RNG member. It's a jungler. It's not MLXG. It is Karsa, who has now won 6 domestic titles in a row, going back to his time with Flash Wolves, obviously. MLXG may have higher highs at times, but me oh my, his lows are quite a bit lower. Karsa far and away the more consistent jungler for RNG in summer.
Yeah, when you're talking about the junglers for RNG, well, there's MLXG, and then there's, of course, MLXD. And they're
They have 3 junglers.
And they're very much the same. They appear almost with the exact type of accuracy here. But when you're talking about Karsa, oh no, there's nothing to laugh about, because you will not be laughing when he's ganking you. There's no escape here from this guy. Karsa has been fantastic moving over to RNG, moving to the LPL from the LMS. He really has, again, he shows this skill that he's got cleaning up here on some of these champions that we know him to be proficient on. Karsa is certainly one of my favorite junglers to watch, and he is in good form heading into this Worlds, and he should be counted on from RNG to play some important games.
Yeah, he's going to be probably the most feared Lee Sin at the entire tournament as well. Just incredible mechanics on that champion, and really towards the end of the split, he was really dominating and getting the lion's share of the starts in all the games for RNG, and deservedly so, because there wasn't really any knock in his play that you could say, oh, let's sub him out for MLXG. But I know in the group stage, and even when it comes to knockout rounds, it's going to be better to be able to sub out junglers, because we've seen KT do it best when Score is able to watch a game from the sideline. You kind of completely get into the mindset of the opposing jungler, and I think Karsa is a guy who can excel at that as well.
Yeah, and hey, it's got to hurt even more for TSM fans. Not only are you not at Worlds, but the guy that wanted to join your team, Karsa, finds himself here on our rankings and going to Worlds already.
And he's had a pretty darn good 2018, by the way, as well as the rest of RNG. But unfortunately for Karsa, the #1 LPL jungler on our list heading into Worlds goes to Ning at number 11, Invictus Gaming's starting jungler. Him and Rookie were an absolute dynamic duo throughout the summer split, and were the key cogs as to why this team went 18-1 in back-to-back splits. He was a little bit more underwhelming in the playoff run that IG had. He did not look quite as good as he did in the summer split, but throughout all of the regular season and still at times in the playoffs, this guy is kind of a more fine-tuned MLXG.
I love that, a more tempered version of MLXG, because it's exactly how Ning has played this year. He has been able to have that aggression, that absolute bloodthirst that you need to have, that guys like MLXG have shown us in the jungle, and how they use that to dominate the other team and make it a living hell to be playing in that jungle. Well, Ning doesn't quite make it as unbearable as that, but he certainly finds ways to punish you out there on the Rift, and especially, as you said, his way of pairing up with Rookie and the pressure that those two can bring to any side of the Rift, oh boy, that is scary.
And some people will say that IG choked because they didn't win the summer split again after going 18-1, but they had all the chances in the world against RNG, and they played a fantastic set against what has clearly been the best team in the world in 2018. So even though they're not coming in as the top seed from the LPL, Invictus is definitely a team to be feared at this event.
Yep, Invictus is one team to certainly keep your eye on. Hey, the LPL as a whole is certainly a powerful region heading into this year's Worlds, and oh boy, that's got me excited.
That's got me excited for Worlds as well. That's all the time today for League Unlocked. The countdown will continue tomorrow with the top 10. Eric and Mark with you guys. Thank you so much for watching.